Hey, welcome back to Pave the Way podcast. I am here with John Martinez, the sales training legend and one of my actual real mentors, in-person mentors. This guy's taught me a lot about sales and he's really helped me grow. So it's been a long time coming. I finally got him on the show. We've had some schedule conflicts. So John, I'm really excited to have you on my show, man. It means a lot.
Man, the pleasure's all mine. I've been working with you for, 3 or 4 years now? I don't know, but I'm excited.
You've seen me since I started, man. I remember I first reached out to you like a while ago now, and we've both grown a lot. So it's cool to see, man. It's cool to see. So anyway, so people who are not familiar with you, so can you just give us the quick high and dry on John Martinez? Who is he? Where is he from? What was he doing before he got into the whole entrepreneur game?
Yeah. So, career in sales. So, kind of working my way from the bottom to the top in corporate America. So all commission sales, kind of traveling salesman type thing, selling insurance, and then just better and better roles throughout the years. Moved into better and better companies, larger companies, and then higher level leadership roles. So I started in all commission sales. About 15 years later, I was VP of sales and marketing for an IT company. And then did some software stuff in between and just kind of worked my way up the corporate ladder like most of America does. Got tired of that. Always loved the sales training piece of it. So I opened up my own sales training company. Started working with a bunch of companies. But this last 4 or 5 years, we have done exclusively real estate investment sales training. So how to buy houses at a discount, really.
Yeah, awesome. So obviously I know your story a little bit, but so this is something I haven't really heard as much of. I don't think we've discussed this in person, but so you started out, I know, with the insurance agency and everything, and you built that up. And then, so as of like what were you doing? Like, when did you really put your foot on the gas in terms of starting your own business? And like, what year was that? Because you've grown very quick. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's probably 5 years ago, maybe 4 to 5 years ago. I'm a little fuzzy on it. I don't keep track of dates and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, probably 4 or 5 years ago, somewhere in that range.
So 4 or 5 years ago, and what kind of put the dagger in that one? Like because I'm sure you were making a good amount of money. You've done it for a while. You're comfortable. You got the nice house, nice car, sales guy. What made you realize, like, I might be doing good now? Because a lot of people, when they get comfortable like that, especially people my age now, they start getting these good jobs and they're young and they're making the money and they just let their foot off the gas and they just drift into mediocrity. So why did John Martinez decide to, accelerate on that gas pedal and thrive in entrepreneurship?
Dude, I didn't feel comfortable. I'll tell you that. That was the biggest thing is I felt really uncomfortable. I mean, you know how anyone who's had a job knows how it is. You always make more and more money, right, as you get older and you get into new roles and stuff like that. But our spending increased at the same rate, right? So like the houses got a little bit bigger, a little bit nicer. The cars were a little newer, right? You take one more, vacation a year. You start buying that Starbucks every day instead of just on Fridays when you get paid. So like it just sneaks up on you. So, when I was a kid, my first job bagging groceries, paycheck to paycheck, right? Smitty's grocery store every 2 weeks. 30 years old, corporate America, making well over 6 figures. I was still paycheck to paycheck because I never outpaced, I wasn't smart. I just kept spending, right? But the other piece of that was like, hey, I don't want to stop the spending. Like, I like the nicer stuff. I like having options. I like that lifestyle. Not that we were doing anything crazy or buying anything outlandish, but it's nice when you could get that coffee every day or the workout supplements I wanted, right? And not have to forego those things. So I was like, I like the nice things. So I know that's what I want if I want something, I want to be able to get it. But at the same time, it is so freaking uncomfortable living check to check. So, it was kind of the intersection of those two things where I just said, I got to do something different. Like there's nowhere else for me to go here.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I don't think we've ever talked about this before. And it's funny because not funny, but you had a really good job and you were super successful. And then you decided to then jump. And that's where a lot of people, they get that pretty good job. And I mean, especially like, my area of the country, East Coast, West Coast, it's very expensive to live. I mean, in some of these middle areas of the country, it's not as expensive to live. So you can spend more money on other things. And you still decided to take the plunge. So you decided to get right into the sales training business. So what was your first, like, we'll get into some actual sales training stuff in a minute here, but when you made the decision, hey, I'm going to eventually quit this job and I'm going to become a successful sales trainer as my own business, what were your first couple steps like in terms of like getting some clients or at least trying to get a little bit of traction? Because then you can get that proof of concept going and then start to grow it from there.
Yeah, so I'm like a burn the bridges type of guy, or burn the shit behind you type of guy. So it was it might have even been Christmas Eve. I remember I had a few days off of work for Christmas vacation. Yeah. And I was sitting on the couch, and I can't remember what hit me, but I was like, all of a sudden, it's like I'm doing it. And my wife was over in the kitchen, and I just said, Amanda, I'm starting my own sales training company. And she's always supportive, always been. So she was just like, all right, honey, go for it. Like that was it. So I hopped on GoDaddy. I built my own website. It was like so ugly. It just absolutely terrible. But I was like, I need a website, right? I ordered some business cards for like $5 or something online. But the way I got started is my first idea was I went to my boss and I just said, hey, listen, you're paying me a ton of money as a W-2 employee and with benefits and all that stuff. I said, do this. Just pay me $10.99 as a contractor and let me just run the sales team as a contractor. Let me have a few hours a week to start building this business. So I try to present them with a win-win, right? It's like, you're still going to get the same stuff out of me, but your cost for that's going to go substantially down. Yeah. So he agreed. Probably the coolest guy I ever worked for. And from there, what I did is I started searching the help wanted ads because I figured, hey, if people are looking for salespeople, like there's something that was a pain point, right? Like there's something wrong with the sales system. Either I don't have the people, I'm not training the people correctly. We don't know what's wrong with sales and we don't know what to do with it. So we just keep trying to hire people. I just figured if I could find those people who are looking for salespeople, that was kind of a sign that there's some sales trouble. So my step was I started emailing them, calling them. I didn't know anything about marketing back then. So it was just like, it was hardcore cold call, sell. So I spent probably the first 6 months, every day was like probably 4-hour block of cold calling. Got lucky. I guess I won't consider it luck because I worked my butt off, but got a meeting with a manufacturing company. They didn't know I didn't have any clients yet. I didn't even have any sales training curriculum, but I got a meeting with them. So we went to like some restaurant and sat down, and they were looking at a big sales training franchise, Sandler Sales Training, which is huge around the country, great training program. They're like, we're looking at them. We wanted to look at another option, and you had contacted us. So we figured, hey, you're a local guy. You contacted us. We'll check you out too. And we just kind of chit-chatted through lunch. Honestly, I can't even remember the conversation or what we talked about. What I do remember is at the end, he was like, well, we got to figure out what the price was. And I was thinking the only way they could take me seriously is if my price is so high, they're either like, this guy's good or he's crazy. And I was like, I'm going to take my chances. I said, and I know they're going to try to negotiate, so I'm going to start really high. And I'm going to use, like, I don't have any customers, so the only thing that can build my credibility is this conversation now and what my price point is. So I said $10,000 a month. And like, that's basically what I made working full time at the top of my career. And I was offering an hour of training a week for $10,000 a month. So I left them. They're like, okay, I left the meeting thinking like I blew that one, but they called back, I don't know, a couple days later or whatever. It's all fuzzy now, but they're like, will you accept $6,000 a month? And I was like, heck yeah. I was like, so that was my client. So yeah, that was my first training client. And it was, man, it was hard because every week I'd go in there and like that whole week I was like, I got to have good content and I got to build my content out as I go. And I ended up being pretty dang good and they never let go of me. So like, I had this 10 or 12 week training program and I went through and they're like, we don't want to stop. Let's do some more. So I had to keep like making up not making it up, but like figuring out what's the next step. How do I structure it? And from scratch, build it all out. That went on for like a year or two, like until I finally had to fire them. But it was, that was my start, man. That was it.
Man, I've never heard this from you, I've never heard the real backstory on how you got it going, man. So that's, I like, well, I'll hit on two things and then we'll get into some actual sales stuff. So, you started, you had the good job, you were still prospecting for 4 hours a day to get the initial traction. And then once obviously you got some revenue coming in, then I'm sure that client was very happy. They referred some people and you started getting good at marketing and everything. So,
Yeah.
you know, in the beginning, you're going to have to work pretty hard if you're going to start something. And then I saw your Facebook post today, once you get some traction, you know, you shouldn't have to hustle for 16 hours a day because you're probably doing the wrong thing in that situation. So that's a whole other podcast. So obviously you're my sales mentor, right? So all the listeners here, this guy has taught me everything he knows about sales. And it's been so powerful for me in my career and my real estate business. And John and I have done some work together. So, you know, I'm a big 80-20 guy. I want to give people on the show, you know, content that they can act on. So what are the 20% of things that people can do, sales related, to get 80% of the outcome and value from a effective sales process? We'll just
so simplest thing, bar none. This is so freaking simple, but truly, you could probably, anyone, I don't care what industry you're in, if you do this thing, you'll probably double sales. And like, I'm not kidding. I've just trained so many companies at this point that when they implement this one thing, they're like, oh, super freaking easy. And like, we're just crushing sales now. Here's what it is. Stop accepting maybes and think it overs. That's the most powerful thing you can do. And do you want me to go into why I could?
Yeah. Because that's something that it's super easy on the surface, but a lot of people, if they're not trained by you or they've been investing for a while, like me, like they're like, yeah, okay, sure, and then they just kind of.
So here's the deal. A lot of people accept maybes and think it overs because they're scared if they don't, they'll lose the deal, right? You feel so bad, so it's like, hey, they're pushing me off. They got to think about it. They got to talk to Sam or Susan or whatever. And you don't want to kill the deal because you think you'll kill the deal, right? If you say, hey, I need a decision now, then you're afraid that this potential sale you could have had in the future, you're gonna squash. Number one, anyone who's been in sales long enough knows that once you get that put off, it's highly unlikely to turn into a deal. I mean, it happens, but you don't want to bet on that 1% or 5% of the time. So they don't want to kill the deal, so they accept whatever it is. The other reason why people don't kind of shut it down and they accept maybes and think it over is because they don't want to be pushy, like, or that slime, that whatever their vision of what a salesperson shouldn't be. They don't want to throw down the gauntlet. They don't want to be a jerk. And I get all that kind of stuff. So what we always recommend is, in a very nice, nurturing way, let them know, hey, after everything we've talked about, everything we've discussed, if you're not comfortable, it probably just means it needs to be a no. And that's perfectly okay. No hard feelings. In a very nice, gentle way, you make that I don't know or the maybe into a no. Now, that solves the problem of being a jerk just in the delivery, right? Here's the 3 things that can happen. And there's only 3 things that can happen when you do that, man. And you know this better than anybody because you train teams to do this exact same thing. 3 things that can happen. One is they've already decided internally it was a no, but they just didn't feel comfortable telling you. And I mean, I deal with salespeople all the time who I really, really like, and sometimes I don't want to let them down. So instead of just going like, no, not doing it, I say, hey, great product, great service, you're awesome. Give me some time to we let them down easy, and that's what a lot of people do. So doing that gives people permission who've already decided no to let you know. And you're ahead of the game right there because at least you know where you are. You can sell from the no. You can throw them in a follow-up. You just know. So you're in a much better position. Second thing that might happen is it just automatically turns into a yes. Any big decision I've ever had in my life, and most people I talk to, that big decision isn't made until like your back's up against the wall and it's like, all right, decision time, what's it going to be, right? So for a lot of people, and it's just like, shoot, my wife and I, was our anniversary this weekend. And so we went out to eat every meal and we went out of town and stuff. But every time we sat down for our meal, this is what happened. The waiter or the waitress would come back up and they'd say, hey, are you ready? And my wife would say, no, I'm not. But John, you order because by the time it gets to me, I'll make sure I'm ready. I'm putting that pressure on myself. Like if I just sit here and look at the menu, it's going to be 3 hours. If the waitress says, what do you want? Then I'm going to have to decide, and I'll make that decision. So big decisions, little decisions, we usually make them when we have to. So giving them that no, for a lot of people, they're going to just go, you know what? It's time to make a change. Let's not let this opportunity go to waste. Let's just frickin' do this. So either they're going to let you know it's a no, it's going to turn into a yes, or there's just something holding them back, something you haven't talked about, something they're uncomfortable with, something they haven't figured out. And that's going to be exposed at that point, where it might be, hey, no, listen, Greg, it's not a no. I don't know what I'm going to do about, or I haven't thought about, or I'm still struggling with this. And again, then we got some more information, we could do something with it. So in a nice, nurturing way, if you want to double your deals, just make anything that's not a yes into a no.
That is, I can't tell you how true that is, because I first heard this a while ago, and this is before you and I really started working together. And it's so funny because those three things are actually going to happen every single time. And I think once people see that, especially in my business where you're buying, selling the offer essentially, you just kind of, you're like, okay, this was never going to happen. Now I'm not wasting my time. Now they're not wasting their time. It's straight up a no. And if you looked at my offer sheet for my company, literally it's either yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. There's never like, oh, calling on Tuesday to get it. It's literally, it's so funny. I can show people. It's like, it's so hilarious. Just yes, no, yes, no. Anyway, you get the yes on the spot, which is great. And then if like you said, the third thing, if there's something holding them back, and the sales process is more than a podcast, but if there's something holding them back, you get to the root of that and you find out, is that thing holding them back? If we fix it, do we get a yes? Or is that really an objection that we're never going to be able to overcome? Therefore, we have to do a bunch of other things, which is, for another podcast. But that's just, it's so true. And especially people listening who are in sales right now, whether you're an entrepreneur or you're just in commission-only sales, I'm telling you, my challenge and John's challenge to you is never accept a maybe again. If you think it's a maybe, even if they say maybe, consider it a no until further, right?
Yeah. I mean, the rule is anything other than a yes is a no, because people try to fudge it all the time. They go, well, they really have to just they really just have to go to the bank. They really just have to. It's like, no. Literally anything other than a yes is a no. Like, you got to live by that, or else people start making up their own rules and they'll give themselves maybes. Like, people don't want to take the no, hear a no, accept the no. But the most powerful salespeople out there, they're like, anything other than a yes, it's like, Bob, that's a no. And that's cool, but it's a no. And then they move on.
Exactly. Or it's a no for now. If it's a no for now, it could be a yes in the future. Like, there's sales is a whole jungle, right? So what's the other thing? So we got half. What's the other half that people can really apply, that it's like, if they do this one thing, they will have better sales conversations?
Yeah. So I'd say if there was just one thing that would have huge impact if people actually did it, and this again applies to all sales, all industries, all types of sales cycles, price points, on and on, is you want to sell the personal impact of what you're selling. And I'll clear that up, because that sounds a little fuzzy and vague. Here's what I mean by that. If you buy a house, you're not buying a house. You're buying the experience of living in that house. You're buying the feeling of what it's like to live in the house. You're buying the feeling of being able to tell people where you live, if it's a nice neighborhood and it's an ego thing. You're selling the comfort of putting your kids down to bed in a place that is safe and secure. It's personal impact, right? Like, we don't buy a house, we buy how that house would personally impact us. And that goes for anything out there. IT services, right? It goes for the feeling of safety that, you're not going to have your computer break down in the middle of a podcast, or you're not going to leave customer information vulnerable and then lose your entire business. So no one buys anything unless there's some type of personal impact. And a lot of salespeople, they sell what they're selling, and they never get to the point of figuring out, if you do this or don't do this, is there any real personal impact? And now that I know the personal impact, is this worth the price tag? Is this worth going through whatever you need to do to get into the product or service? Is it worth that headache? And I think that's where most of them go wrong. So the second thing would just be to stop in the middle of a sales call, and just however you word it, it depends on the situation, but how does this personally impact you, right? So the way I did it in business-to-business sales, where it's a little stuffier and a little bit more corporate, it was, I always use this phrase, so this might help someone, I don't know. As, hey, I've heard a whole bunch of stuff, and I totally understand why, you're considering this for the company from the business perspective and all that kind of stuff. But what I haven't heard from you is, how is this personally impacting you? Is there any personal impact? Does this change anything at all about what you think about, or how your day goes, or what you worry about? Or is it all just about, I think this is just a good business decision? And that's how I always took it to personal impact. It's, no, man, this has been killing me. When you say killing me, what do you mean? It's been a thorn in my side for 2 years. And we get into the personal impact. Yeah. It's a lot easier to solve those types of pain than to solve business issues, right? Like, hey, do I have the right credit card processor? That's a tough sale, right? Are you sick and tired of paying a percentage more than all your buddies at the country club? And once a month, your processor goes down and you lose a day of sales, and that could be the difference between profit and loss for the entire month. Are you sick of feeling that? That's a much easier sale. So personal impact, you got to get to it.
That's so key. It's so key. I heard an analogy once. It's like a babysitter doesn't sell the babysitting services. The babysitter sells a nice stress-free evening for the couple, if you really start peeling the onion back. So
that's exactly it, man. And it's true in any, when I would usually work with business to business teams, they'd always push back right there and go, no, it's not, there is no personal impact, but there was always personal impact. Even if they were selling to like a professional buyer, they were selling paper towels. Once they started having those conversations, they'd find out, my brother-in-law owns a company. He's taking care of my whole family. He's giving me the job. And I want to make sure I make the best possible purchase because I love this guy, right? Or, hey, it's not about the paper towels. It's about if I establish a track record of making good purchases, shave some money off of the expenses, and improve the products my company uses, I'm up for an extra vacation day, a bonus, a promotion. And it's how that promotion impacts you and your family. And it's always personal impact. I don't care what it is. That's what we sell. Every salesperson on the planet.
That's so true. And it's really like, because I like how you hit on the B2B, because I've been, getting some commercial leads. I'm looking to get more in the commercial business. And you think like that's all numbers. I've gotten situations where we've made bids on buildings and like, it wasn't just, oh, they're selling the building. It's like, oh, they have no money right now. They're in a jam. They have to sell this building to go to, you know what I mean? And it's always there. You got to just know how to get that information out. And that's, where the whole sales process comes into play. So those two things, I'm telling you, listeners right here, you're listening to John and I, if you just implement those two things and go deep on those two things, you will see different results. Almost, I don't want to be like the guarantee guy, but like I'm so close to guaranteeing this, it's not even funny. And John knows, because let's just kind of go a little bit of tangent here. So I first started, I found you a couple of years ago. I was struggling. Once I started implementing some of the stuff we talked, what happened? Not just kind of a shameless plug because I believe in this stuff so much. What happened?
Yeah, no, I mean, you got good, you got really good. And, two sides of the coin, of course, right? There's like, you could get good information anywhere, but it's only people who implement it who actually get results, right? You can get information from books, movies, podcasts. It's who implements. Yeah. So you implemented in a very big way, and shot up to the top of your profession, really. Obviously, your business, your core business is doing well. Got good enough to where you train teams for our company or for our high-end stuff, right? So you would think like, well, I'm the owner of the company. I'd be the guy who did like the one-on-one high-end training, but it's you, man. So you went from, not really knowing much to being someone who people pay top dollar to get a little bit of training and knowledge and mentorship. So, and then your business has grown too.
Yeah.
You really become kind of a, I don't know what it's called. I don't want to say a guru, but like you're well known in the industry now, right? You're at least from what I see, like you've really made a name for yourself.
Yeah, and you have definitely helped me a lot, but but on the whole sales thing. But the point is like, a couple years ago, I did not know the difference between a sale and a snail, basically, and I implemented good information, and it literally changed my life. So like the point for the listeners is, like, you might be listening to this on a podcast thinking, oh, I've heard a million of these things. Take these two things we talked about and implement them and watch the results pour in. I'm just saying, because this stuff it's so, near and dear to my heart. I want people to definitely take action on this. So anyway, yeah, we could talk about sales for hours here. So as we wrap the show up, John, I mean, we talked about how you got started, why you went to the entrepreneur route. What do you think has been, because there's a couple things I've seen with you as we've known each other over the years now. You're very good from what I see at, I would say, strategically quitting things that are not the highest and best use. And I think a lot of people, they have a tough time doing that. And it really just kind of screws them up because they're like emotional. And I think from what I've seen, you've been very good at seeing what works and what doesn't work and focusing on the things that work. So would you mind sharing a couple examples of that and why you think that's so important, especially to grow your business once you become the owner?
Yeah. So the way I look at it is, Well, when I was growing up, I was in the Boy Scouts, and I'm in Missouri here. So one of the things I love to do, one of my favorite all time things, is to float down rivers. You throw a canoe in a river, and you let the current take you. And every once in a while, you'd miss a sandbar or some place you were supposed to get off the river, and you'd have to turn the canoe around and paddle upstream. And when you have to do that a couple times, you learn it's a lot freaking easier and more fun to go with the current than it is to try to paddle against it. So I think of the market that way, right? It's like you're either going with the flow of the market, it's telling you where to go, pushing you along, or you're going against it. So
Sure.
I always try to listen to the market and try to figure out where's the current taking me, because if you can get into the current of the market, of what people out there want and need help with and have problems with and want to buy, then you've got a great business, and it's super easy and you don't have to struggle too hard. So my philosophy is just that. Listen to the market. The market will tell you exactly what to do, how to do it, when to do it. And if you listen to it and go with that flow, things are easy. So what we do is we test a lot of stuff. We split test a lot of stuff, right? Hey, I think this might be a good idea. What a lot of people do, which I think is the wrong way, is they go, oh, this looks like a good idea, so I'm going to sink 6 months to a year into building it, throw 50, 100,000, whatever it is into it, either time or resources or both, and then I'm going to test it. We do the opposite. We go, I think this idea might have legs, so we test different businesses and business ideas, and if the money comes in before it's even built, just with the idea, and people don't just say I'm interested, but they give money to prove it, that's how we can see the current, we know it's taking us somewhere, then we take the next step and say, all right, let's build this thing out. So there's nothing fancy. It's just we let the market tell us what to do. So we've tested hundreds of ideas. Some made us fantastic money. The boot camps, for example, was one of those. We're like, well, we'll just try it. And now our boot camps, I think we're down to doing 2 boot camps a year, and they bring in somewhere about $400,000 to $450,000 a year in revenue for 4 days of work. Complete shot in the dark, just like 20 other shots in the dark we took before. 19 didn't pan out. That's a winner. It's a core piece of our business. So we just always do stuff like that.
Wow, that's awesome. That's really interesting. I think a lot of people don't think like that, and they just, because they're too busy trying, because they fall in love with the idea and they don't fall in love with the results,
Right.
which is not good. I've tried that with direct mail marketing a couple of years ago. It didn't work out too well on my side. So besides you talked about a success there that you implemented. So what's something that you thought was going to be like, maybe it wasn't a complete failure, but it was maybe one of the pieces of your business that was there, but it just, it was more of like, I have it. It's not losing me money, but I'm making so much more money in another area. Just if you could share an example, because I think a lot of entrepreneurs listening to this, they can kind of maybe take what you've said and kind of shift it in their business and see if they can maybe do the same thing.
I've shut down probably in the last year, I think 3 or 4 little ventures we've tested that were not losing money. They're making money. They're good money makers. A call center, for example, we were making about $30,000 a month profit from a call center we were running. Shut that down because it's not always just about money. So there's a lot of stress there. There's a lot of headache. There's a lot of turnover in clients. There was legal ramifications when you talk about telecommunications and cold calling, especially today. So there's all kinds of things like that let us, hey, it's a profitable venture, but we had to look at our internal resources and go, I work with my wife. She sits in the desk behind me usually. We've got another person named Amanda who helps us out. And I go, man, we've got my wife and Amanda, 2 amazing resources for our company, spending 100% of their time and stressing out like crazy for this business that makes us $30,000. Over here, we've got this business that I'm doing by myself that we're doing $100,000 to $150,000 a month. So I was strategically thinking, if I get a little bit of that help, we make so much more money if we grow that, my business by 10 or 15%, and that's easily done with 2 more by tripling the bodies in that business. So it's like it's decisions like that. We've offered some other services with our company, and just the same thing. It's, hey, okay, it's making money, but for the resources, the time, the opportunity cost, is it worth it? So if you always just look at it in terms of money, I think you make a lot of wrong decisions. If you look at decisions in terms of opportunity cost, which sometimes you make decisions to do stuff even though it doesn't bring you money, but it brings you opportunity. So I guess I've never verbalized it before, is we look at opportunity cost versus money.
That's smart. That's smart. I like that because I've noticed you're really good at that. I see you pivoting all the time and your website changing and you just focusing on the things that actually matter. So, as we wrap the show up, John, I mean, what's the future hold for John Martinez? Where can you see yourself in like 5 years business wise, with your business? Because you've just been growing like a weed and it's pretty cool to watch.
Yeah. So we are, like we talked about, we've been testing things for about the last 2 years, for everything from different marketing channels to different types of businesses and different offerings. We've hit a few winners. So we're going to go all in with that. So actually our business will be transitioning. We're actually in the process of transitioning Midwest Revenue Group from a REI sales training company to being the parent company of the REI sales training, a marketing company, a licensing company, and we're going to do a couple other things too. So we're going to build a national brand, and we're going to use content marketing to do so, just because when I started my expertise with sales training, now I've been an entrepreneur for a long time, figured out a lot of stuff. So as my expertise has grown, we're going to shift along with that, and give more of what we learned. Because our whole business to date is just, hey, here's what I've learned. Here's what I know to be true. So I'm going to pass this information to you. So now that knowledge base has grown, we've got more to share, more real world, real life stuff that we do every day to share that we actually see results from. So we'll be expanding in that way.
That's awesome. So you're going to get it. So you're going to have more of a marketing side of the company too, like teaching marketing and things like that.
Yeah. So we're licensing our sales training. We're in talks with another a very large coaching company right now. That might be the tail end of some of our sales training. We'll test that. They're a very well-known coaching company with coaches all throughout the U.S. They're very highly regarded. I don't want to get in. None of the legal stuff's done yet, so I can't get too deep into it. But it'll be another thing that we test. I'm not even going to commit to it because you know how I work. It's like we're going to try all these things. We're going to probably fail 14 different ways before we find the exact formula. But we know the end goal. The end goal is we've got more knowledge to share, so we want to share in these avenues. We don't even know what the products are going to be in some of those avenues. We're going to let the market tell us. We've got some ideas, and we're going to go for it. So that's what the future holds.
Awesome, John. That's great. Well, you're going to crush it because I mean the stuff you put out is always top notch, and it's truly life-changing information. And I'm not the only one saying that. There's people all over the place saying John Martinez's stuff, it's game-changing. So, if people wanted to get in touch with you, at the time of this recording, it's, mid-August 2019. So I know you do have a boot camp coming up in, mid-September, I think?
Yeah,
so,
16, 17, 18, somewhere around there. It's a Monday and Tuesday.
Okay. So if you're there listening and it's some semi-live time, it's not 2 years from now. Yeah. If people wanted to find out, how to get in your world, how to, follow you, your website, maybe they're interested in some of the sales training stuff, boot camp, online camp, what would be the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Yeah, just our website's the best way. We list everything there. So MidwestRev.com. The name of the company is Midwest Revenue Group, so it's MidwestRev.com. But there's like a ton of free training videos. You can opt into our email list, which we don't spam people. It's literally just more free stuff we give away. Scripts, all that kind of stuff. So anything we do, we put it on the website, and people can easily navigate and figure out if they want anything from the website or not.
Awesome. Well, we'll direct everyone to MidwestRev.com. We'll put that in the show notes. And John, thanks so much for your valuable time. We'll talk to you soon, man.
Always a pleasure, my man. See you later.